All set.
Okay, I have two guys, so I can give one call to order to conduct.
All right,
this.
thank you.
Not yet. You just hold.
Oh,
You just
okay.
hold your horses, Jordan.
All right.
To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, certain findings and determination for the record, it's a bit cumbersome. Each member of this board is participating in this meeting from a separate location. We must verify a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I am going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Okay, this is in alphabetical order by district. Mary Lipsey.
Mary Lipsey's in Springfield.
That's a little soft for me. Could everyone hear her? Okay, I might turn this up a little bit. Gretchen Bulova.
Gretchen Bulova in Fairfax.
Yay. Carol Herrick.
Carol Herrick in Mclean.
Greg Wilson.
Greg Wilson in Great Falls.
Elise Murray. Elise, are you on?
I did not see her.
You don't see her?
No.
Okay, we'll keep her ear out. Barbara Nave. Yeah.
Barbara Nave in Reston.
Ann Stunts near Vienna. Steve Sherman.
Steve Sherman in Franconia.
Phyllis Walker Ford.
Phyllis Walker Ford in Clifton, Virginia.
Barbara Peters. Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
No.
Ann Barnes is not expected. Sally Lyons is not expected. Tammy Manorino.
I'm here, right near Mount Vernon.
Michael Irwin in Fairfax.
Lynn Garvey Hodge.
She's here.
Lynn Garvey Hodge, Fairfax County.
Jordan Tannenbaum.
Jordan, unmute himself.
Jordan Tannenbaum in beautiful Fairfax County.
Esther McCullough.
Esther McCullough in Sully.
Cheryl Rapetti. Cheryl.
I'm here. Sorry, I just was just hitting the button there. But Cheryl Rapetti in transit to Centerville.
Bob Beach.
I don't see Bob. I don't see Bob.
Okay, we'll keep an ear out for him in case he shows up. Let's see. Last but not least, I saw David Meyer. There you are.
David Meyer, the city of Fairfax, where
Welcome.
our history, the depth of our history is only exceeded by our humility.
Oh, very good, David. Very good.
Okay. At this point, I'm passing this gavel to Jordan.
Okay, just got it. Thank you.
I will, so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion, I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board. Is there a second?
I second Barbara Nave.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstaining? No. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member. We must establish the nature of the emergency, tells these emergency procedures. The fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that as such, FOIA's usual procedures which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical process of the presence of the public cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated phone line, and that the public may access this meeting by WebEx virtual meeting. Attendee call-in 1408-418-9388. Event number 129-035-6425. It is so moved.
Jordan Tannenbaum seconds.
Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Finally, it is next required that all the matters addressed in today's agenda must address the state of emergency itself or are necessary for in Fairfax County government and/or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes and responsibilities. It is so moved. Second?
Second, Mary Lipsy.
Mary Lipsy seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Abstaining. Okay, that is it, and I get the gavel back, Jordan.
Okay, there you go. That looked like a croquet piece to me, but I'm sending it back to you.
That's good one. My father charged $10 for this one.
Oh.
I got it out of the antique shop in the basement. Okay. Chairman's remarks. So bear with me a little bit more for some housekeeping. Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Fairfax County History Commission for August 2020. Again, I'm Ann Stunts, the chair. Here are some technical suggestions to each of the panelists at this meeting. Thanks to Denise. As you know, the meeting's being recorded. It will be posted to the History Commission's website tomorrow. 2, so keep your microphone on mute when you are not speaking to avoid feedback and echo, as well as hot mic moments. I hadn't noticed that one. As the host, Denise will be able to keep everyone being on mute, but your assistance is appreciated. 3, if you need technical assistance, please contact Denise using the chat function. The chat icons, the same row of icons as the microphone and stuff. Yes. Looks like a bubble. And then, as you know, no public business can be conducted using the chat function. It's only for technical assistance. And now, if you want to be recognized by the chair, since it didn't really work to do the hand icon last time, do the best you can by making lots of noise and waving your hands around. I don't know if, I don't know if anybody's got any better suggestions. Regarding our absences, we are missing Ann Barnes and Sally are people who I've communicated with. And then also not at this meeting, I believe, is Elise, Barbara Peters from Technical Difficulties, and Bob Beach.
So Barbara Peters is here now.
Oh, welcome back, Barbara.
Barbara, can you unmute yourself? I will try to unmute you. Barbara, can you hear us? Her name is here.
What?
Her name, she shows up in the panelist list as being logged on, but we're not able to hear her.
Really too bad. That's some of the problem, isn't it? That she was maybe referring to. I hope
yes.
That's but if you can hear us, Barbara Peters, make lots of noise if you successfully get on. on my cell phone or a text if you want to. I can always put you on a speaker like Denise did for me one time. You could actually, I mean, there's lots of ways to be part of this call, or you could phone in. Okay, so let's see. We're going to be talking about lots of different things, including the June 23rd board matter regarding the inventory of Confederate named streets and places in the county. We've got awesome county staff discussing it tonight, and we look forward to future opportunities to hear from the public on this. As we know, that will no doubt be part of the process. Okay, so back to the real agenda. And we have done commissioners excuse, guest introductions. We have Matt. Hello, Matt. You're staff. Hey, but you're a short-term person, so we'll call you a guest. And okay. That's all. Otherwise, it's staff as participants. Is that right?
Yes.
Everybody get a chance? Have we got Winifred? I haven't heard her dulcet tones.
She's here.
Okay. So, anybody ready to make a motion to accept the minutes as distributed?
I so move.
Who said it?
This is Esther.
Lynn said it, then Esther.
Okay, so Lynn, you're moving to accept the minutes and pay the clerk?
Correct.
Great. And Esther seconded. Any
That's
comments?
right.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Or abstentions? All right, next, thank you. Next is treasurer's report. Barbara, maybe? Well, if Barbara gets on, let's let her make the treasurer's report. Are there any comments or questions? Because I think we've probably seen it. I didn't print it, so I don't have it in front of me. Anybody want to follow up with anything regarding treasurers? We'll put it off till later if she gets on, and the 2 months report next time. Okay, I don't think I had anything under new business. So I will move on to unfinished business, and we will start with Confederate Memorials in Fairfax County, June 23rd, 2020 board matter. And I am going to start off, if it's okay with, indulge me for every time I read this board matter, I understand it better. And if I promise to read quickly, I'd like to read it out loud so we really hear it again. So this is the board matter that's posted in a number of places. The minutes, the agenda for the actual board meeting, and I think we have it on ours. So this is the joint board matter from Supervisor Palchik and Hunter Mill Supervisor Alcorn. Request to inventory Confederate names. And remember, it starts with the background. Mr. Chairman, today Supervisor Alcorn and I are requesting a report listing a full inventory of Confederate names of public places in Fairfax County, including monuments, street names, records, and other county properties. Fairfax County residents stand together with fellow Americans in support of the recent movement for racial justice brought on by the horrific deaths of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and others. This powerful call for equity has brought attention to Confederate monuments and place names throughout the country and the county, and the painful history they symbolize. Confederate monuments and place names were affirmations of white supremacy under the siren of Southern history and tradition, and they go against the goal of a more just, unified county. They do not reflect our community's values. Then there's a section on One Fairfax policy. Fairfax County embraces its growing diverse population and recognizes it as a tremendous asset but also notes that racial and social inequities still exist. This policy defines expectations for consideration of racial and social equity and community involvement when planning, developing, and implementing policies, practices, and initiatives. In order to embrace the One Fairfax policy, a full inventory of these tributes is essential for board review to move forward in our journey towards a more just county. So the motion itself, which I think we've picked apart minutely, therefore I move that the board request the Fairfax County History Commission to prepare a report listing a full inventory of Confederate street names, monuments, and public places in Fairfax County and on Fairfax County-owned property. The report should include bullet point 1, a comprehensive list and history of places in Fairfax County named after individuals who held military or governmental responsibilities under the authority of the Confederate States of America between 1861 and 1865. 2, identification of the party responsible for renaming the street, monument, and/or place. 3, implications including legal, cost, and other of removing Confederate names of public places in Fairfax County. 4, recommended guidelines with the input of other relevant county boards and commissions such as the Fairfax County Park Authority and the Architectural Review Board for the renaming replacement process of Confederate monuments, street names, rec centers and parks, additional public. And then last bullet point, input from the county attorney's office and other relevant county agencies on the renaming process of Confederate names of public places in the county. This should include coordination with other local governments for any existing removals or replacements, to include the Mar Monument located on Fairfax County grounds. We request this inventory be completed by the end of 2020. Once completed, the board should immediately consider further community outreach and potential implementation options. I would so move. So that's a refresher in what we've been asked to do, because I know if you're like me, you kind of just get stuck on the process and forget what the point is. So I think I will, with that, turn it over to the chairman of the Confederate Names Committee, Barbara Nave.
Barbara, you have to unmute yourself.
Was being so careful. Anyway, hello. The CNC has met, we've had work group meetings. We had them on July the 10th, the 22nd, and we have one pending on August 19th. Also, anyone can go to, we have our own CNC page within the History Commission webpage, and many details are there, including our minutes. Some of the things that we've accomplished, we've developed a template, and thanks to Tammy for starting us out. I think we ended up with a 3rd or 4th version, a lot of time, but the purpose is to give you a tool, give everyone a tool to record the information that we are asked for on all of the various places, streets, monuments, etc. So we have that. There's some research materials available now for everyone.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number.
Hey, what is that? Is that just to me?
Somebody's unmuted.
Okay, well, I'll keep going as long as you all can hear me. We have the Confederate, we have from the Park Authority, the listing of the Confederate named parks. We have common Confederate names and terms that have been provided. We have the Confederate Military Comprehensive Names List. We have the Fairfax County Cemetery Civil War Burials List, thanks to Mary. We have Confederate political leaders. We have markers, Civil War trails, History Commission, State, and Park Authority. We have the Fairfax County Facilities Maintenance Department, or FMD, maintain buildings with names. We have street names by magisterial district, and a thanks to Matt, because as of today, we received a filtered by magisterial district and by Confederate names. And this is a step in attempting to reach a really good usable tool. As far as the research partners, we ended up sending out a request to 13 organizations and about 4 individuals and 3 towns. Of the organizations, 13, we've had almost half. We've had 6 positive, 1 complete, and that's Paul Gilbert with Northern Virginia Parks. We have enthusiastic, as Ann keeps track. We have enthusiastic responses or responses that they're in process. There are the other 7. We either have no time, no response. Is that me, Denise? I don't know. Okay. And we have 3 towns. We have 1 town that is in process. Ann is making sure that Vienna is on track, and Herndon is still a question, unless Ann has heard from them today, right? So that's where we are. There'll be time after we finish our reports for any questions or comments, but we've worked very hard, and I thank everybody on the committee. This is quite a challenge, and I think everybody's rising to it. So thank you very much. I'm going to ask Denise and then Denise and Matt to give a staff report on this now. Okay.
Barbara, can I jump in for a second? This is Lynn, and I'm going to have to go between 2 meetings tonight because I'm on the Racial Justice Committee meeting in Clifton also. Clifton, heard from the mayor today. We should be hearing from the town of Clifton in another couple of days. You had not mentioned Clifton.
I mentioned the 6 towns. I didn't mention them deliberately. So good. Okay. Thank you very much, Lynn. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Denise?
Sure. Okay. So this is a bit of a repeat for what Barbara has already said, so forgive me for the duplication. But first, I'd like to introduce Matt Knox and Gwen Minton from Supervisor Alcorn's office. Matt is a rising 4th-year student of government at UVA. He volunteered on Supervisor Alcorn's election campaign last year and has been interning at the supervisor's office this summer. Matt will be working with staff on the History Commission Confederate Names Project through August 14th. So we have the use of his multi-talents for about 10 more days. He's here tonight to discuss his work, the work that he has been doing for the commission, and I'll let him have the floor in a moment. But first, I want to give you just a basic overview of the progress that's been made since we last met, and do forgive the repetition. A media plan has been created for addressing the press and public inquiries. A web page has been set up, as Barbara mentioned, for the Confederate Names Committee, which will be updated regularly as the committee moves forward in its work. Staff has begun to gather information on the identification of responsible agencies, as well as the process for renaming streets and/or places, if the board so chooses, which includes so far the Commonwealth Transportation Board and the Park Authority Board, and a draft of a priority list of approximately 55 well-known or locally significant Confederate names has been created. Also for consideration are 10 Confederate or Confederately associated terms such as Confederate and Rebel, which was distributed this weekend. And I'm happy to discuss any item or name on the list. It's meant to be used as a guide to prioritize your research. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who'll give you an overview of his work.
Okay, so the Confederate Names Committee provides staff with a list of approximately 645 Confederate names after eliminating duplicates as to use for the basis of the filtered sort, and a list of the county-owned or leased buildings, 236 and 200 respectively, was generated and sorted by magisterial district and filtered by the list of 645 names. And the filtered list was distributed this weekend along with a filtered list of civic association names and a list of all the street names, which totals 17,227 by magisterial district was generated and filtered by Confederate names and was distributed earlier this afternoon to the commission. And the lists have been generated for the 7,883 subdivisions, 1,418 civic associations, 253 shopping centers, 164 golf courses and non-FCPA parks, and 559 general place names. And these will be filtered by the Confederate names lists and provided to the commission in the coming week.
The numbers are astounding, and thank you, Matt, again. And I know that by the time we meet on the 19th, you will have departed, but I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for all of the work. So we're very, very appreciative. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So hope I'm sure you're learning more about the Civil War than you expected, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. One other part of our requirement from the board matter is the recommended guidelines that we are to provide for renaming and the renaming and replacement process. And I wanted you to know we have Preservation Virginia. They have a formal checklist, which we contacted, and they provided that for us. As Denise mentioned, the Park Authority will be providing their policy for renaming. We're going to pull from Alexandria City the task force details that's on their webpage for the work that they did earlier on this. Denise is working with Susan Gray for the Fairfax City approach. And the ARB, Ann has contacted John Burns, and the ARB has this issue on their agenda for the August 13th meeting, and he's already in a letter provided some very interesting suggestions on the process. So the last is the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and you all have received, I think more than once, the June 20th statement, and we need a vote on that. So I want to offer a little thought before I ask for a motion. As we noted at our July 1st meeting in September 2017, the History Commission formally accepted as its policy on the matter the statement on Confederate memorials and monuments that had been issued by the National Trust in response to the violent demonstrations in Charlottesville. This June, the Trust re-examined that statement and, to quote, determined to be more clear about the importance of removing these monuments from public spaces when they continue to reinforce racial injustice, end quote. The updated National Trust statement issued in June was provided to the commissioners prior to our July meeting for consideration prior to voting to again accept the National Trust position as one of the public history guidelines advocated by the commission. At Commissioner Wilson's request, we held the motion until this meeting so that commissioners could read and review the statement. The National Trust statement is being included per the board matter motion that asked the commission for, quote, recommended guidelines for renaming replacement process of Confederate monuments, street names, rec centers, and parks and additional spaces. Therefore, I move the History Commission accept the June 18, 2020 National Trust for Historic Preservation statement on Confederate monuments as one of the public history guidelines advocated by the Fairfax County History Commission. Do I have a second?
I second. Jordan.
Thank you. Ann, I think you call the motion.
I have to remember how to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion from Barbara and a second from Jordan. And
Yep.
Any discussion? It's a lovely written piece. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, that's done, Barbara.
Thank you. I turn the meeting over to the chair.
My turn? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh gosh, everybody brace yourselves. This is time for true confessions. This is time for brief progress reports from each of us what your either what you've been able to accomplish to date on this project we can do this by magisterial district, but I want to start. I'll pick the order. I sort of picked a good order here. It's my turn to blush because I have not knuckled down on Hunter Mill. And I know that it'll be Elise and me because Barbara is up to her eyeballs and just juggling all of us. I have a kid's wedding on Saturday, so I'm in trouble just for being on this call instead of vacuuming and doing the flowers. So I have to confess, I have not made progress other than to be a few late nights gripped at reading the lists of names and highlighting all the obvious ones that I know off the top of my head. So, but we're a mixed group in this. Some of you have worked a whole lot and some of you haven't. And our goal tonight is to identify how each of the districts, it's a joint effort. So if there's 2 or 3 of you in a district, you need to try to work together to get it done. So from Hunter Mill's point of view, we will knuckle down starting Monday because all we've got is a couple months. We've got August and September, and then Denise needs our input by that first week in October.
October 7th.
So I will move next to Sully, and we can hear from Cheryl and Esther how that's going. It sounds like you have had a good chance to get going.
So in Sully, I have identified, all the street names that have that seem to be potentially named after human beings as opposed to trees and rocks, and have identified a set of at least one subdivision so far traced back. That's all Mosby Rangers. That's the theme of that subdivision, and a couple of other streets that where I've sort of traced back the history. So we've made starting to make some progress. Some of the material that Matt has so kindly provided us will make this process much easier, because basically I was starting to go through the various spreadsheets that we have and search through our list of Sully names, one by one. But now we already have that done, so that's great.
That's really great. Thank you.
And may I interrupt?
Yeah.
Barbara, I neglected to mention that Cheryl's not part of the official CNC, but she is the one that led us all into the GIS layering of streets, and it is so helpful. So I wanted to thank you on the record, Cheryl, for the work. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, it's so important to highlight that, whether for this project or another one, it's a fabulous system with so much information. You just cannot believe it.
Yeah.
I was looking up, street creeks and stuff the other day. It's so fun. All right, I'm going to jump to district, and Mary.
I don't know if Esther had anything else to add.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Thank you.
nothing to add.
You're probably like me and haven't had a minute. Okay, let's jump to Gretchen and Mary and hit it 2 ways. In fact, Gretchen, the biggest thing you can add to some of this tonight is that you lived through the Alexandria ad hoc committee, which is it's an impressive website. It looks to be an impressive process that they went through. And I think we're lucky to have you with that background, and we'll tap your knowledge as we write our reports and make references. Do you have anything to add right at this time?
I defer to Mary. She's been doing all the heavy lifting, so she deserves the limelight right now.
So Mary, you have 2 aspects. Mary is in charge of all the markers in the whole county, and then is working with Burke Historical Society, I believe, on the more generic, on the place names and street names. So Mary, if you're with us, give us a brief update on Braddock. You think we have her?
I was unmuted.
Oh, I heard you.
Mary, let me unmute you. Yeah, I'll unmute you. There we go.
Okay. I have been through markers at least 3 times, and I have approximately 100 around
I'm
the
not
county.
hearing Mary. Excuse me, Mary. I'm not hearing her very well. Is everybody else okay? Okay.
Okay. Approximately 100 markers around the county that, Ann Center State History Commission, etc. A question came up about in cemeteries, besides the obelisk in Fairfax City, are there any markers or memorials to Confederates? I have found 3 that I know of. I haven't visited every cemetery in the county, but I went to the ones that I know of, and I've added those to the list. So I'm in the process of now filling out templates for each and every one of those. John Verano, the Brook Historical Society, and I have volunteered to do Braddock District streets. I had not started that. I would like to finish the markers first. I also volunteered to work on Providence streets since I grew up there. And Cheryl and I were discussing that we thought she had volunteered, but we thought there might have been one other commissioner who had volunteered to help with the Providence street names.
I did.
Yeah, that was
Eric.
Okay. So Carol, Cheryl, and I will divide up those names and go through Providence District.
Also, there's one person on this call, I think, there's a,
Sue Kovich. I'm not sure she's still here or not.
If she's still on, I can put you in touch with her. She lives in the Providence part of Mantua and is, to the extent she got some time, she would be somebody who might be able to work a little bit on Providence as well.
Okay.
Okay, so good, thank you. Braddock's in hand. Let's move to Drainsville. I'll start with Carol.
Let me go and Greg go first because I'm pretty much done with Drainsville. So let's see what Greg has to say.
Well, Greg is glad you're done with Drainsville.
I didn't say done, but I'm pretty much.
So I've been helping with the collection of the all the input to the what I'll define as the master list that was handed off to Denise and Matt, and I think the next steps from my perspective are to take the output from Matt, digest that, think about the methodology for how to pursue that, and then report back at the next committee meeting.
That sounds good.
But if I've already done a lot of this, you might want to look at what I have before you get going, or maybe it will be better for you to do what you do, and it'll perk up what I've done, maybe.
Yeah, happy
anyway,
to take a look. I obviously don't know what you've done, how that compares to what Matt's output is.
That'll actually be an interesting process, interesting analysis to see the hand-done list versus the computer-done list. And I think it sounds too like you're kind of looking at the process on behalf of all of us as well, as you're not necessarily just focused on Drainsville. So that's good. Anything more comments on Drainsville?
And it's Barbara again.
Not for me.
And Barbara again. I wanted to ask Denise, at what point does she, like if Carol feels that she has completed her work for Drainsville?
Nearly. I didn't say completed. Nearly.
Nearly.
I'm pretty far along. Yeah.
We're sending things to Denise, and I wondered if Denise has, does she want people to hold and send them at, closer to a month from now, or we hadn't really talked about that. We know that our due date no later than October 7th, but would it help you, Denise, to have some earlier? question?
I think it would be better to have them trickle in than have a flood at the end.
Okay.
This way I can just work on them as they come in.
Good. Thank you.
Great.
Everyone hears that then. All right. Thank you.
So that's good to know for all of you all who are way ahead of the rest of us. All right, I will move down to Lee District. Stephen Phyllis.
Okay. Steve Sherman and I have been working on the list of street names, and a quick glance at what Matt sent to us this evening shows a lot of the streets that are in Lee District. From the first glance, they're named for families that we know have been long-term families in Lee District. So we're going to spend time researching that list, matching it with Matt's, and then hopefully have more information at the committee meeting on the 19th.
You know, that raises something that we've been talking about, Barbara and I have been talking about, and that is the general, and in Drainsville as well, you've got a lot of families who've been here for a long time, who are part of the growth of this county, who may have had a Confederate named with that last name. Lee is the perfect district to think about it because of you've got the Lee family, and then you've got Robert E. Lee, and it's in many cases going to be impossible to say that something that's just called Lee would be Robert E. Lee, but there's probably 50 or hundreds of families like that. We've got Gunnell.
There are a couple of examples that I noticed tonight. Walker Lane and Jasper Lane. Those are named after two of my ancestors.
Oh, neat. So you know
They
that.
were not Confederates.
Right.
Right.
So that's an important part of the report when we know stuff like that. Who is it?
And excuse me, and if I could say something also, this is Steve. Yeah, Phyllis and I had a lengthy telephone meeting here recently, and we went over. I'm really familiar with a lot of the streets in the Lee District, Franconia area.
Yeah.
And as you know, the Franconia area was really a large farming community starting from the 1900s. So a lot of the streets are named after family names who had farms. And a lot of the newer subdivisions, newer meaning built in the 1950s on, those street names really didn't have, Confederate names or anything like that. One of the big Confederate names is Van Dorn Street, which starts out in Alexandria and enters Fairfax County. Van Dorn was a general in the Confederate Army, so that's really the biggest Confederate name. And of course, the Lee High School was initially called Lee High School, and then the name was changed to Robert E. Lee High School, and now I think the county voted it was going to be the John Lewis High School. So that's what's going on right now, and so we're still in progress, Phyllis and I, and we hope to have some results very soon.
That's real progress. Good.
Yeah.
We were talking about so this is a perfect example of when you're going through the names in your community, and you guys know them better. And I've been hearing some of this with Carol's investigations as well. You're going to run into a lot of names that are either named after the farms that were there, or the so we thought we would set part of this package would be maybe something like a list. I think the committee needs to talk about it and think about it more, but maybe like a list of big longtime family Fairfax names that we run across a lot, so that then it kind of helps to explain why there's going to be this chunk of ambiguous names where you can't say that Berry Street in Vienna is named after Captain Berry necessarily. It's probably named after that guy who built a big house on the corner of Park and Church Street, and that's not Captain Berry. So I think we've got in our own areas the expertise to maybe help make that clear, why we keep running across a lot of these names, that it is not always going to be a Confederate connection. Okay.
And I'm going to interrupt you because I got Captain Barry too.
Oh, I bet you do. Because, yeah,
I do.
those people love.
Got a lot on him. Go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead.
That family likes Drainsville almost better than Hunter Mill. Okay, so I was going through the list and we stopped at Drainsville.
No, Lee's.
So we stopped at
Lee District.
Now we've got Mason District, and Barbara's not on the phone in any sort of way. So we'll let it go. She's one person by herself. She will do the best she can, but if anybody finds that they could help or know that district, I think she could use it. We had Naomi for a while, quite enthusiastic about it, but she has a loved one, not her John, in the hospital, and she just can't focus on that right now. So I think Mason could probably use some help if we have some resources, or if you guys do. Mason, Mount Vernon. We don't have Ann and Sally on the phone, but we've got Tammy.
Hi. I actually had a little bit of time this morning to go through and take a look at what I had to go through my email to search all of the great tools that we've been given up to this point. And so I took the list of the short list of Confederate leaders and officers, and I did put that against the civic associations and the buildings that we had, and didn't come up with any, which was, a victory.
Good.
But then I ran it against the street names that had been sorted by district. And it was a great exercise to go through. So I found 12 that are possible and 3 that I know definitely. So there are 12 that, that need more research, and 3 that I know that we have to write up a template for. And then when Matt's list came across, I was very excited because I think this is going to be a great tool, for helping us go through the process, but also documenting. He created a column called Notes, which I think is going to be fantastic because I noticed some patterns as I was doing my search. And so one of the patterns is that there is a street named for a different person or reference. For example, Mary Baldwin Drive is not after, Mr. Baldwin, the Officer Baldwin. So instead of writing up a template for that, I think it would be reasonable to document in the notes column here and say, this is Mary Baldwin, who is a, teacher in Stanton. And so just to use that column to explain why we're culling things out of the list. So the 3 categories that I came up with that I think I'm going to be able to dismiss things on are something that's a physical description, like Hillview. So it's not named after A.P. Hill, it's Hillview because there's a hill. So physical description, a different person or reference, and then sometimes there's a partial name, like Birchfield Way. And so Birchfield Way is obviously not named after Birch. And so I think that culling is going to help us save time. And I thought, if we can use those categories and just put them in the notes so that somebody can go back later and see why we didn't go down that rabbit hole. So I think that's great, to sort of list that. So I'm very thankful for Matt's work. This is wonderful.
It's an amazing tool.
Yeah.
But it's all still a lot of work. So
I think it cuts down.
It sure does. But most of the people we know at Mount Vernon Historical Society are people we know at through History Commission.
Yes.
But I hope you're able to find some other people to give you a hand. Maybe you'll get a short list and could beg for some help, because
I think especially as we start to need more details, I know the street names around me, but it's, great to have Sally who knows, her area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really hard to do an area you don't know. Okay.
And I'm going to interrupt again, just to point out that the fact that Matt has done this process is so long, but he has offered another step, and Tammy's making good use of it. So it's, you have to kind of break it down, and so Tammy has demonstrated the benefit of having the sorts like this. So
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, if you look at the tools that have been provided through a lot of hard work, thank you, Denise, and thank you, Matt. It's just it's a game changer, because now when all is said and done, we still only have 2 months to try to track down some potentially very obscure information. But at least we're this far. Okay, Providence, Michael Irwin.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Never know when I'm muting or unmuting or what.
Me too.
Okay, I have not had a chance to do much. I've gone through the lists that have been provided, picked up some low-hanging fruit, but that's about it.
Good. Are you going to talk to us later in the time, or you want to do it now about any
Your
announcements?
Choice. Dealer's choice.
Well, I think now might make some sense, because it affects this project. Want to?
Yeah, yeah, probably so. All right, this is very difficult for me to say, so I'm just going to flat out say it. I have resigned from the History Commission effective the end of this meeting. I let Dahlia Palchik know. I let Ann know. Simply put, I just don't have the time that I need to commit to a project of this scope. And I'm literally going to be dead weight on it. And I don't see this changing anytime really in the future, as long as we've got COVID-19.
Yeah.
There's also a consideration of the kind of work I do and for whom I do it. I'm not really 100% sure that I want the potential notoriety that comes with being associated with this project. So as I said, after many, many years on the History Commission, it's time for me to step aside. I've enjoyed working with all of you. I treasure the relationships I've had with all of you. I'm going to miss these meetings intensely, but it's just not something that I can continue on with right now.
And you've been with us for like 15 years or something.
Since I believe 2006.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we will definitely miss you, Mike. That's a, I mean, the fact that we don't, I mean, it's just, we'll definitely miss you. You are such a, as the representative from Providence, it's been so important to have your voice. And I hope you will stay in touch, because you have such a good practical point of view about many of the things we do. And I think it's a valuable one. So we'll make you come to meetings. You can sit in on all our Zoom meetings, but you don't have to talk.
Well, I talked with Lynn, and I have talked with her about remaining associated with the History Conference.
Oh, good.
At least in a non-voting like helper role. One of the things I've done for History Conference is maintain the mailing lists, the emailing lists. I truly love the History Conference, and yeah, I really want to stay associated with that.
Great. That's fantastic. Well, that worked, because you've got some non-History Commission members of that committee. So that's a perfect thing. Thank you. Thank you.
And it's Barbara. Mike, this is a little lightness, but it's very sincere, and that is, make sure you come to our Christmas party and bring your wonderful, wonderful dish. Okay? You're
Barbara,
hereby invited.
trust me, I thought about that this morning.
I know.
Or yesterday, and I thought, wow, I think a couple people aren't going to like this. They're going to make me come to the Christmas party.
There it is.
Oh,
Right there. Here I am. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you all.
Good point, Barbara. We can't let the night go by without mentioning that. All right, Mike, thank you for letting us know. Thank you for your frank discussion of why, and I'm sorry it's worked out like this. So
am I.
yeah, okay.
Maybe
Thank you for all
the
these
20th
years.
century ever quits.
Right. Thank you for all of your years on this. All right.
Thank you.
So back to Confederate. We really will need Mary and Carol and Sue and anybody else who can step in and try to cover. You can share any of your thoughts before from your first cut on that.
Sue's
Okay.
already volunteered. She already sent an email out.
Oh, good. Next is Springfield. Lynn and Jordan. How's that going?
Let me unmute here. Can you hear me all right?
Very well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have zoomed on down to the Bahamas. Okay. Ironically, while you've been chatting, Anne, I got a letter from the town of Clifton's mayor, and so this is where we are with Clifton.
Good.
He says the town of Clifton has performed the review you requested in your letter dated July 14th. We've reviewed street names, monuments, and public places in the town of Clifton to determine if there are any named for individuals who held military or governmental responsibilities under the authority of the Confederate States of America. We consulted with members of the town of Clifton's History Committee in our review. We've completed our review and determined the answer is none. To our knowledge, no street names, monuments, or public places in the town of Clifton, Virginia are named for individuals who held military or government responsibilities under the authority of the Confederate States of America. Bill Holloway, Mayor, Town of Clifton. I think what's really interesting is there's about 9 streets in Clifton.
Yes.
There are some markers, but they're inclusive markers of both Union and Confederate orientations. And I know Jordan and I have been in touch, and we both have been pretty slammed lately. We are going to try to get together this weekend and do a little brainstorming on next steps. Right, Jordan?
That's right, Lynn. That's right. And I'm delighted to report that I have thoroughly surveyed my subdivision of North Hill. I think I have about 5 or 6 streets, and there are no Confederate named streets there. So we are barreling along here, making a great deal of progress, and I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Right, not North Hill, North.
I was going to say, or maybe I'll join you in the Bahamas. Yeah, it's pretty inviting.
Okay, all right.
So that'll be good. I think the fact that that you can just hear and you can see these tools that Denise and Matt and Greg, I mean, look at all the parts that make it work. It really does give us, it should give you and all of us a focus that will the process a little more efficient than just scanning 17,000. Sorry, it's 28,000 place and street names. Okay, good work, you guys. Good luck. We've done Sully. Bob Beach has the whole county to do. Bob, are you what? I forget what district you actually live in.
Well, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
I'm in Braddock, but I'm at large, so you're right. I got to do the whole thing.
Yeah. I would propose.
Hey, just think of it this way: we have 28,000 names to come up with for replacements. So I think we should start with Matthew Knox Way.
There, that sounds good.
Anyway, go ahead. I just had to put a little humor in there.
That's great. So I was just going to say that one of the best things is that we're each best about, for the most part, unless we've moved around a lot, we're each best about the district we come from. So I think you could just sort of slot into the Braddock thing and look over the lists and think about your own neighborhood and your own area that you might know better than either Mary or Gretchen or John Drana, and maybe participate like that. I've done Mary, so now I'm down to David Meyer, and we're not touching the cities, but I thought that David, you might take a brief moment to talk about what the city's up to and how you're approaching this.
Well, thank you very much, Ann. The city is 6.2 square miles.
How many?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, how many square miles?
6.2, as opposed to the county, which is just under 400 square miles. Having said that, the Fairfax Courthouse region certainly was ground zero for a lot of activity during the Civil War. But most of the nomenclature that we are addressing in the city really is a classic lost cause initiative. These are names that really appeared between 1890 and 1930. And we had some low-hanging fruit. We had one state historical marker entitled Birthplace of the Confederate Battle Flag. That historic marker has already been removed. This is all in a 5-week period between George Floyd's murder
Memorial Day.
on Memorial Day and the end of June. So we removed the birthplace of the Confederate battle flag. We took down a marker that removed a stone marker that was for Peyton Anderson, and it was entitled First Confederate Blood Shed. That was put there by the United Daughters of the Confederacy in 1927, and the UDC came and some collateral descendants of Peyton Anderson took that away. We changed the name of the mascot at our high school from the Rebels to the Lions. We changed the name of the street where the high school, the street address, which was a Rebel Run, is now Lion Run. So that was the quick, low-hanging fruit that we did in the first, I'd say, 5 or 6 weeks. We have a neighborhood entitled Mosby Woods, which was built by Steve and George Jonas in 1963. There are 27 streets in the neighborhood, and the entire neighborhoods, all the street names are Confederate motif. In addition to, well, there's some that are Sherman and a couple of Union names, but it's pretty egregious. Plantation Parkway, Confederate Lane, Shiloh, etc. So that's a big challenge for the city. We also have several other side streets in the city that you would expect, Stonewall, etc. And then we have a larger challenge with respect to Lee Highway and Old Lee Highway. And so what we're going to be doing in September is establishing a commission. It's going to have 3 component parts under it. One will be street names and neighborhood names. The second will be looking at the city seal. Our city seal was adopted in 1973. It has a Confederate soldier and it has a likeness of Lord Fairfax. We're probably going to take the human personages off of our seal. And the third is what we call markers and monuments. It's really, we've gotten rid of the most egregious already. However, we have markers in several places in the city on city-owned property that address part of the Civil War Trails program and how the city promotes history in the city. Because in the past, some of our materials were, for example, Mosby Spies and Mar. And so we're going to take a completely new look at how we promote history in the city to expand the interpretive materials to include the African American experience, both antebellum period with the enslaved persons, as well as the post-war Reconstruction and even into the early 20th century experience of African Americans. So now, for those of you, just for a little refresher, the judicial complex, the Massey complex, is 53 acres of land where the historic courthouse sits. Sharon Bova called it the hole in the donut. And when the city was founded in 1961, those 53 acres remained in the county. They're actually part of the Providence district, as most of you know. And so we are working collaboratively with the county with respect to how those markers, including the Marstone, will be addressed. Susan Gray from our staff is working with the county, with Denise and others, to have a coordinated approach. I think that one of the guiding principles that I have given to when this commission is established is that we establish a date by which this commission will sunset. And we haven't decided when that will be, whether it be June 30th of 2021 or September 30th or December 31. But I think the longer these kinds of issues drag out, the less effective things will be. Secondly, second observation is once names are changed, people move on. In the moment, what I call the tyranny of the moment, people will be pretty intense about these name changes. But once decisions are made and people move on, most people will accept it pretty quickly. But we want the process to be open and transparent. We want it to be collaborative. We want it to be inclusive. We want all points of view to be considered and heard. However, there is a fundamental idea that we're entering into this because we believe that those changes are merited. And if it's, oh, well, we don't want to change anything, then why are we even considering this? Why are we having this conversation? I think that we have come to an understanding that some things are simply too egregious to ignore any longer, such as having a street in the city of Fairfax named Plantation Parkway, where African Americans currently reside and own homes on Plantation Parkway. That is unacceptable. And also on Confederate Lane. So we are about this process. It's not going to be without its controversies, but I believe that if a fundamental principle is where do we want to be in 15, 20, or 40 years from now, and when people look back on this, hopefully they will say that we have done the right thing. So we have a legacy that is quite intense in the city of Fairfax, and we acknowledge that, but we want to have a reinterpretation and a better understanding that includes all persons, history of all persons. So that's where we are. We will be addressing this at our first council meeting in September. I think it's September 11. No, let me hold it a second.
That's
September 15th.
15.
Or the 8th. No, I'm sorry, September 8th.
We can all come to that one way or another. That'd be interesting.
It will be online. It'll be virtual. Yeah. So
I thank you for that update because it's the first thing I do when I have see an issue like this is I love to hear what other organizations are doing and how they. You are much tinier, so the fact-finding aspect was very different. But the county's going to have to go through a similar process of open and collaborative and inclusive and transparent and all that for moving forward once they kind of catch up with you on the information front. And so that we're doing that first step, just baby steps really right now.
I would also say one other thing, and that is that we are somewhat in uncharted waters, but and there's no right way to do this. There's no wrong way to do this. Will we make some mistakes, either errors of omission or commission as we move forward? Absolutely. But one of the key elements about this is that we hold each other accountable, acknowledge it, and move on. And the last part of it is that no one has a proprietary claim on the right way to go about this, because, as I said, it's not without its challenges, and as it has been said, history is a riddle with no answers, and so we have to keep working it so that every generation has its own understanding of what that history is.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. That's that's.
Thank you for letting me.
That's almost like a presentation. We could have had you in the beginning for 25 minutes or something. Thank you very much, David. Any questions? We're done with that little part of updates. Oh, and David, in all your spare time, if you want to help any of these people in the county who need help.
I was listening and thinking about the Providence District in particular, and if I can lend any assistance in that particular area or anywhere else, we would be happy to do that. And Susan Gray, as I said, has already been designated as a key staff person, and she is certainly willing to help the county.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's good to know. Thank you. All right. So I think I'm done with that part, Barbara. So given those results, I would say I think we're doing really well, but I think we're really just getting to the hard part where we've got to, except for some people who have done brilliantly till now. And I think we will find this very challenging. We lose Matt on the 14th. If there is any way to tap any additional, thank you for the offer of, wow, Susan Gray, she's good. There went my saw. Susan will love it that she volunteered. Thank you, David. Wow. But somebody like that can really just glance over a list and tell you a lot because she just knows so much. But I would say a message to Denise based on what I'm hearing today is Rachel Flynn really did offer to consider underused librarians possibly to help on this project. The libraries are not fully open. And they certainly were not open when she made the offer. There may well be resources of the county that are very good who could play a role in some of these more difficult research questions that we're going to just keep running into over and over as we try to get to the bottom of some of these names and where the heck did they come from. So if maybe the committee wants to think about it some more, but Barbara and Denise, I would think that it would be something we'd want to consider asking for, again, especially because we're losing Matt, who has been so very valuable to us. It would be good to have some more warm bodies who know how to research.
And this is Barbara. I would second that if Denise feels that it's that she could speak to Ms. Flynn about it, because as I mentioned in a message to the commission, we're at the end of the beginning, and that's about where we are. And it's August, and that means we really have essentially 2 months and a week to finish this. So I would certainly second that request to Denise.
Okay. Okay, good, thank you. So, are we done on Confederate names, or did we cover everything you wanted to, Barbara?
I think so. I don't know if there are questions, but again, people are welcome to come and listen on the 19th or just share questions. You all know my email.
So,
and I simply am spending it out to everybody.
Barbara and Matt, I think we all feel, want to congratulate Matt for the wonderful work that he's done. And it raises the suggestion that there might be other Matts in other supervisors' offices, interns, and I imagine they're interns during the year too, not totally sure about that. But that might also want to get involved in this project. Might be something that we might suggest, acknowledging how helpful Matt has been and suggesting to the BOS that they might want to consider that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, are you talking, Barbara?
Yeah, sorry, I hit it the wrong way. I said we go through Denise to Rachel Flynn, so that's the route. So I think we should start with the librarians that are already staff at this point, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we can wrap up Confederate monuments and memorials and move on under this agenda to electronic meetings policy. This is the one where we give ourselves a policy for how to do a hybrid meeting of in-person and virtual. And by creating a policy, we can do it. It's harder to do if you don't have a policy, or maybe they wouldn't let us do it at all. So I hope you had a chance to read it. And if so, I would ask, I'm not supposed to do motions, somebody to make this motion. Let's find it. Motion to adopt policy for electronic participation. And it just, is this something we would read, Denise? It's long.
Want to go with him?
So it's posted on the website, right?
Posted, yeah.
So if somebody wanted to take a look at it to make the motion.
This is, and we sent it out recently. It's the one that says, Virginia law authorizes the remote participation of commission members provided that a policy exists to ensure that such remote participation is consistently administered. This policy may be used even after this state of emergency has passed. So it was, we had Jordan call in to the meeting once or twice when you were traveling, and we didn't have a policy for it. It was okay because you were kind of making a report. It wasn't really, you weren't part of the quorum, you weren't necessarily proposing action, but we would be on much firmer ground if we do it this way. And it doesn't appear to get in the way. It just is it's kind of like when I read all that stuff at the beginning of a meeting to make sure we're legal having this WebEx meeting. So if somebody'd like to make that motion, we could get this part done. Anyone? It's terribly not controversial.
Right, and so I will make the motion. Let's figure out how to phrase it so that it's so that we want a policy for what?
You can make the specific policy that is in writing on our website right now.
Yeah.
If you could stand that, I'll just get it I'll get it in front of me here.
Is there a date attached to it or anything?
Let's have a look. Electronic meetings policy. Uh-oh, does it not have the motion? Uh-oh, then we do have to read it. I could read it and then you could make it.
Was it in an email? Was it sent out in an email?
I think I sent it in an email.
So I move that we accept the electronic policy for meetings that was included in your recent email.
Yeah, the policy in motion that was included.
Okay, policy in motion, yeah.
Is everybody okay with that? It's all. Okay, that is a motion from Jordan. Somebody speaking? To adopt the policy for electronic participation as distributed a couple of times. Last meeting in this, I believe. So is there a second?
I second, Barbara seconds.
Barbara seconds. You know, look at it, it's a lot like what we just went through, that people are audible and stuff. Okay, any discussion? Any questions before we vote?
I just had the question when I got to the, it's one of the last things in there and it talks about having a closed meeting. And this is just my inexperience, like we haven't had a closed meeting since I've been part of the group, but I didn't know, like, why would we have a closed meeting?
Oh, just when we have the lawyers giving us legal advice. And then we have to read a script saying we are now going to discuss this particular thing. And then we turn off the mic and then we have the meeting and then we go, then we have another little specific motion and go back into public session. It's loads of fun.
All right, well, that was my only question.
Yeah, that's a good point. I saw that too. Any other questions or comments? Are people ready to vote?
Yes.
If so, all in favor of accepting the motion to adopt policy for electronic participation, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed or anybody abstain? Okay, I think that looks good. Thank you. The Brimstone Hill Monopole update. Briefly, Jordan, you want to tell us what is going? Denise, do you need to do any staff angle on this monopole, or is this?
No, actually, I'm waiting to hear I'm waiting to hear the history commission.
Okay, Jordan, over to you, and think about anything we need if you need to write a letter or something to anything we need the commission to have a vote on.
Okay, so you may remember from our last meeting, this is a project to put up 165-foot monopole near Burke Park, near a property called Brimstone Hill, which is, if you've been down in that area, as you might have very well been, you will see if you're driving towards Burke Lake on the left-hand side, a very stately mansion. And I'm sure you've wondered, well, what's that? Who lives there and what's that about? Well, that's Brimstone Hill. And that property appears to be eligible, although it has not been officially determined eligible for the National Register. But because the FCC has to license this monopole, this essentially cell phone tower, it kicks in the 106 process. And the 106 process ordinarily would kind of deal with this on a case-by-case basis. But in this case, in these kinds of projects, there is what they call a nationwide programmatic agreement, the title of which is the Nationwide Programmatic Agreement for Review of Effects on Historic Properties for Certain Undertakings Approved by the Federal Communications Commission. And it is about 8 to 10 years old. This programmatic agreement sets out the dimensions, the area that would constitute what they call the area of potential effect of any of these towers, depending on their height. So for a tower that's 165 feet tall, that area of potential effect, that area where you need to look to see if there are any properties that are eligible or on the National Register, is 1/2 a mile. It turns out, according to what I've been told, that this particular monopole is 0.65, 0.65 of a mile, 65 hundredths of a mile from the monopole. So it's slightly outside the area, and therefore, ordinarily, if there was no concern here, it would just go right through. The initial read by the State Historic Preservation Officer of Virginia was no effect. However, once we raised the issue of the visual, that there might be a visual effect, the State Historic Preservation Officer, tracking our letter, withdrew their concurrence in no effect and said that they wanted, what we had asked for was a balloon test or visuals that would show the relationship between the tower and Brimrose Hill. And so now the action really shifts to the State Historic Preservation Officer. In this programmatic agreement, there is a section which reads, it says that unless otherwise established through consultation with the SHPO, the presumed ape for visual effects for construction, new facilities, blah, 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 will be visible within 1/2 mile from the tower site. So, it can be changed. There are exceptions, and we are now waiting. And then I was sent some photos, which I'm happy to share with anyone who's familiar with this area, would like to see the impact, the visual impact here. It takes a little bit of orientation to those photos, and Ann got a copy of them too. But really what now has to happen is that the SHPO is looking at these pictures, and they will determine whether or not they want to, essentially pull back their determination of no effect and make a finding of, yes, there is a visual effect, and we want to move forward through the 106 process. Any questions?
Is there any action that we should do or could anticipate needing to do before our next meeting?
And no, I think we really need, what my feeling now is that we wait to see what the SHPO will determine. And I'm correct, right? This is in the Springfield district. Is that correct? Pretty much. Just curious.
Oh.
Denise, do you know?
Not off the top of my head, Jordan. What district do you represent?
Springfield.
Yes, then I think it's in Springfield.
Okay. No, wait a minute. I represent Lee. Yeah, it's in Lee. No, yes. Okay.
No, I think it was sent to you because it was you were.
That's
Okay.
usually how it works. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Denise, do you have any questions, or does that pretty much?
No, but thank you for that summary, Jordan. I know that SHPO got a hold of Laura Arsenault today, I think, and asked if staff had any further comments after receiving the balloon test visuals that you received as well.
Yeah.
And as you know, you have staff comments. I don't think that we've changed our position any after looking at the balloon test. So I think that staff's position is there is no adverse effect, and we will be putting that recommendation into SHPO's office.
Okay.
Hello?
Whose voice is that?
I'm not sure. I'm looking.
Yeah. So it is one of those things that.
Mary, did you have something to say? I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mary is waving.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, and can you recognize Mary?
Yeah, there she is. Recognize her. Mary, mute yourself.
No, wait. Mary, I've unmuted you. Don't unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to know what corner of the property of the intersection it's on. Is it, apparently it's not at the corner where Brimstone Hill is.
We mean where the tower will be, Mary?
Right.
Yeah, the tower is in the Korean church. It's called the Korean Baptist Church. That is where this tower will be.
Well, that's a historical church. That's originally Little Zion Baptist Church
Really?
on Brook Lake Road.
Oh, I didn't realize that. If that's the case, then that changes the whole dynamics of this situation.
That's why I wanted to know, because I knew that church was just before that intersection. There also is a small cemetery, private family cemetery on Brimstone Hill, where a Confederate is buried.
Well, okay, that hadn't come up so far, but that we're not too far along for this thing to be entered. Denise, are you? Is the Korean Baptist Church, the former Zion Church or whatever? Is that on the inventory? And do you feel that may be eligible?
I do not know if it's on the inventory. I do not know if it was picked up through survey on the Chris layer with SHPO's office. It's not ringing any bells to me, but I can go back and confirm that.
Would you let me know, because that'll change our response for sure.
Absolutely.
There's no question it would be in the ape at that point, obviously.
Yes, it would be sitting right smack in the middle. Yep.
That's right.
The other white frame church is an Asian church, whether it's the Korean Baptist, but it's the only one I can think of. It's near Wynyard and Brook Lake Road. And that's the original Little Zion Baptist Church. If it's
this is the one that's almost directly opposite what looks to be Lake Park Road, or some road like that. My map isn't really showing.
It's Brook Lake Road and Wynyard Road, and you go on down towards 123.
This is the one. It's on 123, and it's near the Sikh Foundation. Is that the one with the?
Okay, so that's why I'm concerned. I didn't know which direction they were.
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody send me a map that shows where it's located.
That's the one you drive by. It's got a beautiful gold dome.
Okay, that's on 123.
Yes, this Korean Baptist Church is on 123,
okay.
opposite
so
Burke Lake Park.
Okay. The Little Zion is on Brook Lake Road.
Yeah, this is yeah, and of course the house is on the corner of Burke Lake and 123.
Right.
And
yeah,
this is Barbara.
Yeah.
Jordan, is this on the church property?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why they're getting some money for doing this.
Exactly.
Obviously.
That was what I was going to say. Out in our area, in the old Drainsville church, it's a crazy tower there, but they were all for it because it provides funds for the church. So
correct.
That's a consideration if it's their property and they want it because it helps generate income for the church. So just a point to be made.
You're right. Churches all over do it, but we still can ask for mitigation if we think that it's.
I'm just making that's a part of the puzzle.
It absolutely is. In fact, I want one on my house. Gretchen?
I just want to address to Mary. Mary, the church you're thinking of, it's not the same. Right? It's on the other side of Burke Center Parkway, because that's where Henry Bailey was the original pastor.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
Burke Lake Road.
That's not what we're talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay, I just couldn't visualize where this was going in. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just to clear that up. Okay.
Good. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so it sounds like this is more of an update than an action required from us. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. My feeling is that if the SHPO says okay and they concur with what Laura is saying, that it's no effect, then I'm not sure that it makes sense to pursue this any further at this point.
It's too bad. I mean, this nationwide programmatic agreement that you've described, it doesn't really look at topography, does it? It's not saying here's a 165-foot tower and here's this lovely house on a high hill too. And let's look. I mean, maybe they will be visible from each other. And a proper kind of analysis would let us know.
Yeah.
But the SHPO knows how to do all that. So.
Right. So I'm waiting to see what they come up with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That one's
Yep.
done. I don't know what's next on your agenda. I have a scribbled copy. I wrote Mclean Firehouse. I don't know which order to do this. Mayor, Carol, talk about Mclean Firehouse and what you need from the History Commission, if anything.
I'll talk a bit and then defer to Denise because she is more on top of this than I. They're redeveloping downtown Mclean, and they've been trying to do this for 30 years, and not much has happened. But they have another committee called the Central Business District, and the Firehouse is in the way of their plans. And there is a group that would like to, I want to say, eliminate the Firehouse, and of course there's a group that wants to keep the Firehouse. What am I getting at? The county owns the building. It's operated as a teen center through the Mclean Community Center. And so we got the Firehouse on the inventory a few years ago, and then we got that marker up that went up in March, and we were going to have the big dedication, and the COVID came, and we couldn't have the dedication. So we're trying, some of us are trying to save the Firehouse, and, they could have another use or whatever they want to do. But there's been meetings, and Denise, I'm going to let you take it from here. No?
Sorry, it just takes me a minute to find the unmute button. So yes, I think Carol covered it pretty well. My staff report on the Mclean Firehouse, I'll just go ahead and read it. So as staff has made the commission aware, the Mclean Community Business Center has been undergoing a study which will result in the new comprehensive plan recommendations for future development. Staff has carried forward language from the previous comprehensive plan, which calls out the old firehouse for preservation. Some members of the task force believe including language about preserving the old firehouse will hinder redevelopment in the CBC. Staff was asked to attend the last Mclean Community Business District Task Force to discuss the heritage resource recommendations, but did not have an opportunity to address the members. The next Mclean CBC Task Force meeting is this Monday, August 10th at 6:30 p.m., where staff is anticipating this discussion to take place. The Mclean Heritage Society, and I may not have that right, I'm sorry, Carol, if I've misnomered that organization, Historical Society, Mclean Historical Society.
Right, the Mclean Historical Society.
Thank you. So sorry. Has written a letter in support of preservation of the old Mclean Firehouse. And that is staff's report.
So, Carol,
I think what we're looking for is a letter from the History Commission, if I'm correct. Am I correct?
Yes, exactly. The old Mclean Firehouse is one of 3 sites on the inventory in the CBC. The other is the original Mclean Baptist Church, which is sort of catty corner across the street from the firehouse. And then there is a Sears house that was moved from its original location to avoid development. And that is also on the inventory. So there are 3 structures that are on the inventory. And this firehouse sort of sits in the middle of where they're anticipating having higher density. But staff's position is that that higher density still needs to be broken up with human scale, human centered activities in architecture. So I am going to continue to argue for preservation and that the language remain in the comprehensive plan that calls for preservation of the firehouse. I think that there are some creative ways to approach this, particularly since it is a property that is owned by the county. It's publicly owned.
Well, I think you could probably make a motion that that the chairman write a letter in support of preservation of the Mclean Firehouse.
I would be delighted to do that if I may. I would like to make a motion, this is Carol, that the History Commission write a letter to the Mclean Central Business District chairman of the committee in support of preserving the old firehouse.
I'll second it. It's Tammy.
But also, that's good. Carol, you have to really do all the writing and all the work, but you're good at that.
I can't hear a word.
I said you have to help write the letter.
Solve the problem to our child. Yeah. Well, I said when it burned out, the guy who replaced it. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Okay, please.
Somebody needs to mute.
His name.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do not know who is unmuted. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I just was saying, Carol, that you and I would work closely together to make this happen. So we have a motion and a second. And is there any more question or discussion? Barbara?
Yes, if in the letter there could be a reference or maybe suggestion of a possible use as an open space or a think of New York City in the Vest Pocket Parks. Make a suggestion of what it could be so that it can be complementary to the high rise, something like that that offers it an idea, not just that we're opposed to removing it, but here's a thought of how it can be useful in the new development.
That's good. Thank you. Okay. Well, if we're ready to vote, all in favor of the History Commission writing a letter in support of preservation of the Mclean Firehouse, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Good, done. Now, with respect, Macmillan Farms. Is this where, this would be Greg's thing, but maybe Greg, would you like Denise to give her portion of her staff report first, or?
Either way is fine. Go ahead, Denise.
Now she's got to find it.
Sorry, I was letting Lynn back into the meeting. Hang on for a second. Let's see. Staff report. Here we go. Sorry about that. Yes.
So Macmillan Farm update.
A Macmillan Farm update, yes. So staff will be providing comments on the second draft of the MOA from the Army Corps of Engineers for the loss of Macmillan Farm in Herndon. In addition to documentation previously stipulated in the MOA, staff has requested that the loss of the historic farm be mitigated through an area set aside for a memorial interpreting the site's history. This draft MOA does not include consultation with the History Commission as requested for the design elements, completeness, and accuracy of the memorial, including educational, interpretive panels, and markers. So staff met with the chair and Commissioner Wilson and reached out to SHPO's office. I'll also be reaching out to Army Corps tomorrow to discuss the omission of the History Commission. Excuse me just for a minute. There we go. And that is my update.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Great.
thankful that he came tonight and thank him profusely because I don't know what his hours are normally.
Somebody is off mute and I don't know who it is, but we can hear your phone call.
Sounds juicy. Okay. Greg, over to you.
Yeah, so thanks, Denise, for that. The only thing I would add is that in addition to the staff letter that will be going on Macmillan Farm, coming out of the call that Denise and Ann and I had earlier this week, we'll be sending a separate letter from Ann, basically making the same request. They effectively stiffed us. They didn't include us as a consulting party or give any reference to our recommendation. So we're going to be writing them and requesting a meeting to discuss our concerns. And the letter is due to be filed on Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
by Monday. Yes. Now,
That's all I have.
this is one of my foggy areas. Is this something, this is something, an ongoing thing that Greg has been reporting on, and we've been writing letters and following up as a consulting party. If we're to write this letter, is this something that we make a motion for to take this next step? I just don't have a good feel for it after all this time. Any advice?
Is there a what? So I think you all are going to be discussing a policy. Could we refer to the policy maybe? A policy of best practices that you're already following. And quite honestly, I can't remember exactly what that says.
Yeah, we'll get that under the consulting parties task force. We could bring that up now as as part of this discussion, because Bob has got it on the agenda to talk about it, and there's a proposal of a policy, like you say. So so would that be okay if we postpone the Mclean Farm discussion and what it needs for follow-up till we get Bob's report out of order? It's under committee reports right now. We'll pull that up to here and then use that to inform our discussion of Mclean Farms. I mean, the fact is we need to respond on Mclean Farm. I just want to make sure we do it properly. So Bob, if you wouldn't mind making your report on the consulting parties task force and what action it took at its meeting July 15th. With that, Bob?
I'm not sure I'm prepared.
Okay, you want me to read it? I could read, Bob. Why don't I read the motion that the group made? Because it says, I mean, I'm sorry to pull you out of order. It says we voted that the motion carried that the following policy be forwarded to the commission so it may consider it for action at its August meeting. Not sure that happened. So, but we can talk about it at our August meeting. And here's what the motion is. The Fairfax County History Commission will notify in writing the chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors and the supervisor of the affected magisterial district when it has been invited and agreed to become a consulting party in accordance with section 800.2 (c) of the U.S. Advisory Council on Historic Preservation's regulations, 36 CFR Part 100, implementing Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, 54 U.S.C. 306108. The Commission further agrees to keep the chairman of the Board of Supervisors and the supervisor of the affected magisterial district informed of its comments throughout the Section 106 review process. So that's one part. And then there was one other part that was proposed, that the following amendments to Article 2, purpose of the commission, be recommended to the bylaws committee at the August History Commission meeting. So this is a recommendation. Ann's not here, but I told her it was coming. It's purpose. And I'll tell you the part that's added. The purpose of the commission shall be to advise the county government, comma, and here's the added part, provide liaison with public and private historic agencies in the county and on the state and national level in accordance with its adopted policies, and promote and encourage public interest in all matters bearing on the history of Fairfax County. So So it's essentially saying that the committee, chime in here, Bob, whenever I get it wrong, but essentially the committee is proposing that we have a policy to how to handle these consulting parties' jobs, and that we basically keep the Board of Supervisors in the loop is the policy part. But the bylaws change just says we're going to follow our accepted policy. And so I don't know if that really informs McMillan Farms. Greg has been sending copies of things to his supervisor, and anyway, Greg wants to write a letter back to the Army Corps, and maybe in an abundance of caution, we should take a vote to say that yes, he should write a letter. He's done it already for my signature to follow up on the McMillan MOA. So maybe we go ahead and make the motion because it needs to be done, and then we're on safe ground and we can explore this again next time.
Can I just jump in here? Since one of us ask a couple of questions. I haven't been following this as closely as some of the others, but Greg, has the memo of agreement been signed, and is it essentially a ratified document?
Best I can tell, Jordan, it is unsigned except for one party, the developer who wants to get it done. Mm-hmm. It's undated. It was presented to us as a draft. Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, but close to being final, and they wanted to basically just run it through.
Okay. And we weren't invited. Were we invited to be a consulting party, or?
Yes.
Yes.
We were. Okay, and so
they're not treating us. I would argue they're not treating us as a consulting party, but they agreed to make us one, even though we're not a signatory to the MOA.
Right. Well, we can actually ask to sign the MOA as a concurring party, and we can also say that since this is not a final, the final MOA has not been ratified, executed, that we're a consulting party, and we want to make our concerns known, and we can send that letter to a number of folks. I would say the parties who would probably have signed it are the Virginia SHPO, the Advisory Council. Well, the Virginia SHPO has not signed it.
No, the only one that signed this version that I've seen, again, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, is the developer.
Right. Okay, and I would recommend a letter go to the Virginia SHPO, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, and of course the Corps. They're a little slimy to deal with, quite frankly. The Corps is a tough agency. They've got something called Appendix C, right, which they hide behind. But I think, okay, that's great news that the process is it's not final. It's not that this matter is not moot legally. And I would be happy to work with you on a letter to those folks and direct you as to whom in particular it should go to.
I'll take you up on your offer. It's a page and a half long. I'll send it to you tonight when we get off the meeting.
Okay.
And again, remember that our filing deadline is Monday.
Monday? Okay, I guess we better get on it pretty quick. Okay, we'll work together on this thing.
I appreciate your help, Jordan. Thank you, sir.
Of course, sure.
Greg, welcome. Greg, this is Bob Beach.
Hey, Bob.
I'm not familiar with the project at all. Can you send me some information so I can read up on
it? Absolutely.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, you'll be interested. We want to have a lot of input into what goes into this farm memorial, because there's no money, no dollar amount attached to it. It's very vague, and so that your input would be wonderful too, Bob. All right. So shall we go ahead, Greg, and get the go ahead from the commission by a vote to go ahead and follow up by letter?
And it is important that that everybody understands this will be going to a number of places outside of the county. This is going to go to individuals who this will suggest to them that the Corps may not have complied with its consultation requirements under the regs. Just so you know.
I think, I think that if we, in adopting a policy like we're talking about, which we haven't done yet, we would keep them, we can do these kinds of things if we keep the chairman and the supervisor informed of our comments throughout the review process. If, you know, this is the pending policy.
We could send them a copy too, sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the motion? Who's the second?
I think you made the motion. I'll second it.
Wait, who did? Jordan?
No, you did.
I can't, can I make a motion? I'd have to give my gavel. Wait, you'd have to take my gavel back. I'm not doing it. I don't want to go to Robert's Rules hell.
All right, then I will make the motion that we authorize the chair to send a letter to the Army Corps of Engineers.
Right.
On the Mill and Farm project.
Indicating that that we feel that as a consulting party, we need to be further involved in the final mitigation of the identified adverse effect or something of that nature. I can work with you. Well, that'll be good enough for the motion, and we can work out more precise language together.
So I'll second Jordan's motion.
Okay.
That's good.
That's great collaboration, you two.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
We're
we
a
have
team.
motion
We're a team.
and- We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion or questions or anything concerns? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain.
And Winifred, I'll be happy to work with you on some of the language before the minutes go out.
Oh, good point. Yes, poor Winifred. Oh, my Lord. Okay, that is done. That is it. I'm so sorry. It's 9:05 for all this meaty stuff. So we will Zoom through, get it? We will WebEx through staff reports and committee reports. Over to you, Liz Crowell. Liz, where are you?
Here. I'm right here. I will make this as fast as possible. Archaeology and collection staff has been working with Department of Public Works, Environmental Services on projects associated with an initiative called Stream Shield. And we've been working in some long-term planning of major multi-year stream restoration projects. And archaeology will be conducted in compliance with Section 106 on a number of these different stream projects. Archaeology and Collections Branch is working in coordination with Natural Resource Branch to clear areas where invasive plant removal needs to take place and that will be subject to future restoration, reforestation. Moving on, we have been developing and updating our standard operating procedures to reflect changes to those procedures as a result of COVID. So sort of defining what our new normal is. Other things that have been going on, we continue to work with the Heritage Conservation Branch and the Planning and Development Division on the and the consultant on the conceptual design for our proposed collections facility. That will be on the a bond issue that will be on the ballot. When the current stage of the project is complete, we'll be coming to the History Commission and to the ARB to give a progress report. Staff is currently part of the team for the county judicial complex master plan at the courthouse. And we're very interested in this because portions of the property have a very high potential for the presence of archaeological resources.
Yeah.
Other things, as obviously folks know, I've been involved with the Confederate Names Committee. I did identify 2 additional names that were beyond the 50 or so that were on our list. One that was mentioned by David Meyer, which was Peyton Anderson. I don't know if there's anything in the county or if it's just in the city that refers to him. And the other is General William L. Cable, who was the quartermaster general. So those 2, I don't believe were on our short list, but they should be added. And then just finally, for those of you who might have known him on a sad point, avocational archaeologist Jack Ramichi, who's a former president of the Archaeological Society of Virginia and the Northern Virginia chapter of the Archaeological Society of Virginia, passed away on Monday when he was 79 years old. So we just heard about that today, and there's no further detail. So that's it for the moment. And I can't hear you.
Question for Liz? All right, thank you very much.
Have a question.
Yes, Barbara.
Is that Cabell the same as Cabell's Mill?
I don't know that.
Family? It's spelled the same with the 12.
Cabell's Mill is not accurate. It was never owned by anybody named Cabell. It was Koppel or Cable.
Well, they adopted it.
But that name is sort of a misattachment of it. It's, they kind of there were Cabells down in Richmond who owned mills, and somebody figured that must be the.
Fascinating. Never, all those years, I never knew that. Thank you.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you for that. Good for all of us to know. Okay. Moving along to Heritage Conservation Branch.
Well, hi everyone. Stephanie Langston here. Can you hear me?
Stephanie.
Hi, hope you all are doing well. I'll dive right in. So for museum collections, the collections manager and Sully staff completed the unpacking of the Sully Historic Site. Reusable supplies such as boxes and polyethylene were moved to the Frey House. The collections manager conducted a final inventory and began reconciling locations for the object records from Sully into the database. The collections manager attended meetings about the collections facility schematic design on July 9th and 27th and continues to provide subject matter expert information to the project. And the collections manager provided a photo of Emma Millard for the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Where Women Made History campaign. On to operations and maintenance projects. Staff is starting production for the virtual tour of Oak Hill Day 2020. Staff is working with WJE for treatment plans for the outbuildings at the Sully Historic Site. Staff is also working with WJE on a treatment plan and historic structure report for the Mount Gilead House. And staff is working to proceed with an open RFP process for the Ash Grove Kitchen Stabilization Project. And finally, on to volunteers with HSVC. The July HSVC event with the Young Men's Service League was actually rescheduled for today, Wednesday, August 5th. And the next volunteer event will be on Saturday, August 22nd at Ash Grove House in Vienna. And I will leave the RCP Resident Curator Program updates for the committee reports, but I'll stay on if there's any questions. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions for Stephanie? Hearing none, let's move on to Laura, Virginia.
Greetings all. It's been a quiet
It's been a quiet month at the library, very light visitation by the public. Staff continues to work on archival projects and fulfill research requests. We're appreciative to Commissioner Garvey Hodge because she recently made a donation of boxes of original research materials on Clifton that were created by Nan Netherton. It's good to see you all in the library, and we're happy to help with the Confederate Names Project. I think Denise and Chris Barbashak now have mind melded because the wires are, the electricity is flying back and forth and the documents. So I'm glad we can help. And finally, Liz Milliner, our admin assistant, has submitted her resignation. There'll be a big hole in the Virginia room. We hate to see her go. And of course, with the tightening of the budget, it probably won't be filled again for a while. But that's all for the Virginia room.
Oh, too bad. Okay, yeah. Thank you. That's good to hear the report. Denise, you're on.
Thank you. I think Laura is right. Chris and I are at this point. I wish I could tap into his mind. That's what I wish. And then we wouldn't have to email it back and forth, which is constant these days. So anyway, we very much always appreciate the support from the Virginia Room provides us. So, sort of on that topic, the first item on my staff report is the Civil War monuments at the Judicial Complex. A public hearing on the potential removal, relocation, contextualization, or covering of the Marr Monument, the 2 howitzer cannons, and the DHR marker located on the courthouse grounds will be held on September 15th at 4:30 p.m. The advertisement for the public hearing should be posted by the end of next week, and I believe the hearing is going to be in person. There will be opportunities for the public to respond by video or phone. That information should be posted on the board's website. And I can send out an email once the ad goes out. I can send it out to the commission so you have it. I was asked to give an update on the Wheelie Avenue pedestrian overpass at the Wnod Trail. The Fairfax County Department of Transportation will be constructing an overpass over Wheelie Avenue for the Wnod Trail. Staff found out about the project during our review of the Isaac Newton Square redevelopment, which is adjacent to the Wnod at approximately the same location. The overpass bridge will be using the berm that the bridle trail is now on as a landing point for the bridge. When staff requested information about the Section 106 review of the overpass, we were told that no comments were submitted and that SHPO had concurred with the determination of no adverse effect on April 4th, 2016. So I was asked to give an update on the Soapstone Connector Section 106 process. There was a recent article in the local periodical Reston Now, which is now discussed, which discussed FCDOT's efforts to obtain additional funding through the Commonwealth Transportation Board's Smart Scale program for the project. FCDOT indicated that they are seeking additional funding for the project, in addition to working on addressing comments from FHWA from the Section 106 Determination of Effect Letter review. Since FCDOT continues to address comments, the reviews are not complete and the new alignment has not been determined. Although we, meeting staff and the History Commission as consulting parties, in the course of our review and consultation have seen potential alternative alignments, the last image released to the public and found on the project's website is the one that was reproduced in the article. Historical marker program staff continues to work with Commissioner Lipsey, FMG. Yes.
I'm sorry. Is this an appropriate time to talk about Soapstone?
Sure, if you'd like to do that. Well, that would actually be a question to the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm off the picture because I'm trying to find my charger. Excuse me. Really, I am. Yes, this would be a perfectly fine time to interrupt Denise
Okay,
and
we can wait for you to find your charger.
no, just keep talking. I'll get it. It's here somewhere.
Hey, Ann, I have a charger here. I can send it through the same way you sent through the gavel.
Okay, I'm waiting.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So, all right.
Okay, ready for you. I'm good. Talk about your question.
Yeah. So Denise and fellow commissioners, friends, Romans, countrymen. I am concerned about the fact that the diagram, the visual image of what is carried in Reston now, the article that Denise just referred to, has the preferred alignment. And it's been a while since we had our meeting with FHWA and Fairfax County DOT. I think it was in April, if I'm not mistaken. And I wonder whether it's time to send a letter to the FHWA saying that we've seen this, this article, and it has the preferred alignment, and we just want to make sure that the other alternatives are being considered as we're assured they would be. I'm not thinking that. I think this is going to be a hard fight. I've known that. We've all known that from the beginning. But the fact that the article I'm looking at, Denise, didn't say anything about 106 review. But maybe I don't have the whole article. But what I'm looking at here by Fatima Wasim only talks about the 66.4 million that they're going to be looking for the soapstone, and I am concerned that we're going to that they're not serious about considering alternatives, and I think we need to remind them that we are watching what's going on. We're not asleep at the switch here, and we expect that they will give this the kind of the alternatives, the kind of analysis, professional analysis that they deserve, and that's required by 4F and 106. So
you would propose a letter to whoever we address the last one regarding this topic.
Yeah, but so the other issue, and that relates to the committee dealing with the Board of Supervisors and the consulting party issue. If we approve that policy, I guess we would want to send a copy of this letter to the Board of Supervisors. I actually don't know how much they know about our position on this case and the current status of 106 and 4F. But this will open that up to them if anyone's.
Well, it certainly is a way to start making sure that they are in this loop.
Yeah.
The good policy, which we will hear more about under committee reports. Yeah. So you're suggesting it's not an action that we must respond to. It's just this has sort of triggered a concern that time has marched on and there is no feedback other than this, which is a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, and I might ask for a status report on their review of the alternatives and when we might expect to hear back on that process.
And it would be FHWA,
Yeah, it'd be the federal agency because 106 and 4F only, in that case, it's the federal agency that's in the driver's seat, not Fairfax County DOT.
Okay. All right, what's anybody want to do? Is this a motion or do you want to talk about it some more?
Well,
no, we need a motion. We need to do it.
All right, I move that that the commission with Ann's signature send a letter to FHWA with copies to the Virginia SHPO, Fairfax County DOT, Board of Supervisors, and others that we contacted the first time Commenting on the article in Reston Now, and registering our concern for the current status of the 106 and 4F consultation processes. And request.
I will second it. It's a letter of inquiry, correct?
Yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, any other questions or comments?
I was just going to comment. I like Barbara's language that she used there, that it's a letter of inquiry.
That's important.
I think it's really important, and I think it's very good to go out and ask questions, and as long as we're doing so diplomatically, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, thank you.
All
I'm
right.
diplomatic.
Well, I try.
And when I'm not, Barbara points that out.
That's right.
We're a good team.
All right. So we're ready to vote. Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so thank you, Denise, for that part of your staff report, and thank you, Jordan, for following up and expressing your concerns. Okay, Denise, I think we interrupted you.
Yes, that's fine. Let's see. So historical marker programs staff continues to work with Commissioner Lipsey on finding answer at FMD, zoning administration, and the county attorney's office on an ownership agreement document to clarify the ownership of historic markers, and when the donating party is not the landowner, and then also clarifying some very old proffers that you all still have on the books for markers, where the cost of the marker has now exceeded the contribution of the proffer, and also that there's not questionable, but there's a question as to whether there's enough history there to even have a marker for the thing that the proffer is written for. So we're continuing to support Commissioner Lipsey in her efforts to get those cleared up. The National Register nomination, and I am going to just butcher this, so forgive me. It is Voies, V-O-I-S. Yeah. The commission was sent the National Register nomination for the house in Mclean, Voies, for review and comment. The house was designed in 1950 by Thomas Tileston Waterman, a prominent architectural historian and preservationist in Williamsburg, I believe, and William Max Hossman, the chief architect for the National Park Service Capital Region between 1952 and 1963. The house sits directly adjacent to the inventory site, Bull Neck Gold Mine. Please forward your comments, if you have any, to me by August 23rd. The nomination is scheduled to go before the Virginia State Review Board and the Virginia Board of Historic Resources for review on Thursday, September 17th, 2020. And
could I interrupt? Could I interrupt for just a second? This is Carol. My husband called me and I had to leave for just a second, and I didn't catch all of that. You're saying this house is, what's going to happen to the house?
It's being nominated. It has a nomination for the National Register under review. So I sent a copy of a PDF version of the National Register nomination to the commission, I believe maybe the beginning of last week, and asked for review and comment.
What street is that on? Is there a street?
I'm sorry, I would have to look that up, Carol. I don't know.
Okay, I'm just trying to see. There could be one or two houses, and okay, yeah, one of them I think is 60 acres, and she has preserved the 60 acres, and I'm guessing it's the house there.
That's it. Tabitha Eagle.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That's the daughter. The daughter's Tabitha.
Okay.
I know which house it. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the Scott Karen Graham House, Georgetown Pike, 8008 Georgetown Pike. How do you say it?
Yeah.
How do you Mclean people pronounce Bois Doré?
Well, I didn't know it had a name. So you've got me.
Okay, never mind. Okay, what else? What else, Denise?
Just a final administrative item. I would just like to remind the commissioners, all the commissioners, that when you're sending things out to full committee or full commission, use the BCC line, please. It just avoids any accidental potential tips into FOIA complications with public meetings. So yeah, if you can CC everybody, you can BCC everybody. So just a reminder. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. That's safer. Any questions for Denise?
I
Okay.
have not already been asked.
Yeah, you've got lots of interruptions. Okay, so the next thing is committee reports. We don't have Elise here to talk about inventory, but the committee does need to meet. How many have we got?
Four.
We have four nominations. Isn't that great? So we need to spend some time on that. And then Bob, you're officially on the agenda now. And so this is regarding the meeting that was had on July 15th of the committee. And it looks like, I don't believe any of this was, I don't think any of this was forwarded to the commission. So maybe, Bob, you could do that this month, before the next meeting, so they can see the two motions that were passed with the policy that I read and the recommendation of the added phrases to the bylaws.
Okay, I'll make sure it gets done. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that'll work. Good, thank you. Markers, Mary. Mary, we can't hear you.
Here we go. Here I am. Yeah, now do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now here it is.
It says mute when I do that, not unmute. Anyway, we met in July 21st with a conference call that Denise set up with us, and as she said, discussed all the proffers. We had commissioners volunteer to work on the various proffers and sent all sorts of questions to Denise. I've charged us with the possibility of making a report in October's meeting to the History Commission as our progress on these various proffers. Since then, I had a request from the president of the William Waters Foundation, Myra Lindsay, to cut the pole on the William Waters marker, which is on Linway Terrace, near the cemetery where he's buried. I did a lot of inquiries with the committee and the facilities management and our foundry, the Siwa Business Company, and actually went out and measured the marker. It actually is the correct height. It stands 7 feet above the ground, and then the text portion above it. The thing is that it sets up on a little rise above the sidewalk, so it does look taller. But after discussing it with the committee and looking at all the possibilities, etc., my recommendation to her is that it's going to stay the way it is, because it is the regulation height of all the other markers. And one of our committee members was actually also wondering if we were starting to set a precedent here by allowing people to adjust the size or height of the markers. So I will be contacting her after this meeting, probably tomorrow, to tell her that. Are there any questions on that? Or two more things to discuss. Okay. The other thing is I received a email from Supervisor James Walkinshaw, my district, Braddock District, about a marker in our district, the Holder Coffer marker. A resident had contacted Jeff McKay about how the text of that marker was incorrect. I went to the Virginia room, which Jack Hiller's files are there, and copied the information that documents the text and supports the evidence of why it was written the way it was. And I took it over to Ann Sharp at the Bragg District office, and she will be contacting Jeff McKay, who I assume will contact the resident, or maybe she will be contacting the resident directly. But I have not heard anything more since then. This marker, the issue was the ownership of the house and how old the house was, etc. And so it has been taken care of. Any questions on that? That's a Holder Coffer. It's at the Woods Community Center in Burke Conservancy. Then Gretchen contacted me about a possible Eagle Scout project from the troop that Grayson and Alex have been part of. And a young man would like to make a app of our History Commission markers. This app would be available and use on Android and Apple, include the text, a picture, the GPS coordinates. He would depend upon volunteers, which of course would be scouts, to work on this. I asked him about updates, you know, if we have new markers added or deletions, if we have markers taken down. He said that he would put that in and that a database administrator could handle that. There is a cost to it. It would be, he is estimating $480 a year, and he is proposing that his fundraising would bring up enough money to pay the license, or whatever you want to call it, for 2 years, and then he would be asking the History Commission to continue with that, to keep it beyond those 2 years. It would have to be hosted by our website, and my only other question is who would be the sponsor of this project. I'm used to being a Eagle Scout project with our Cemetery Association. I don't know if there is a precedent for the History Commission sponsoring Eagle Scout projects, or if there isn't, do we have to establish one, etc. So I was wondering if Denise, I don't know if Denise is the one to ask about us sponsoring Eagle Scout projects, or if there's somebody else, I'll be glad to contact them. And I would like to send you, the commissioners, his project description. He's also done a PowerPoint presentation, that so you can look at it, with also the questions that I have about this project, and we could discuss it in September. Okay, so I'm asking Denise, do you know of who we would ask about History Commission getting involved with an Eagle Scout project?
So,
Mary, as an Eagle Scout, an older Eagle Scout, I'm happy to work with you on this, if that would be helpful.
Well, I've done several, and I appreciate any help you have. I just don't know the protocol of the History Commission, because I'm used to my nonprofit being involved and signing as the sponsor.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I don't know if there is a precedent for this for the History Commission.
I don't know that answer, yeah.
So not having any clue what's involved with sponsoring an Eagle Scout project, perhaps you can send me some parameters that would explain the History Commission's responsibilities.
Okay,
That would be helpful, at least to start there, and then I can start making inquiries about whether the this is something the History Commission can take on in their capacity. It doesn't seem to me like this should be a problem at all. It seems to me that this is a good fit for the History Commission. But again, I don't understand enough about Eagle Scouting and what that means.
Can
yes.
Yeah, is Dave Meyer still on? Dave, you on?
I think he jumped off last I
Right.
looked.
So Dave is really good buddies with John Mason, one of the former mayors of Fairfax City. And John Mason's very active in scouting. I think he was. He might be another good person to reach out to, and Dave could do that. They're close.
I think Gretchen would like to be recognized. I can see her. I'm not sure if everybody else can.
So I'm active in scouting as well, and I sponsor a lot of projects in my day job. It's not a heavy lift for the History Commission. What Mary is asking is if the History Commission is allowed to be a sponsor, so we need clarification on that. And then there's two other things, Denise. One is he's proposing to do an Android app, not an Apple, just the Android. And I know working for the city of Alexandria that produce apps, it needs to be both in order to be accessible to everybody. So that's a question that should be asked as well. And then this does have fiscal impact. So while it's essentially going to be available for 2 years, then that's something to consider is, you get used to these things and they need to be funded. And then if it can sit on the website, I know that that's also a potential sticky issue for the county. So
I definitely heard that. Thank you, Gretchen. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are just kind of things that need to be worked out before giving the blessing.
And Gretchen, this is Mary. What I'd like to do is lay these all out and run them by you first before I send them to Denise. So I make sure I got everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good, you guys. Anybody else on markers? Thanks a lot.
That's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Ethnic and oral history, Esther. You're muted. There you go.
Took me a while to find that.
It does.
There will be a meeting of the committee. And I want to ask Denise, is this too soon for publication on the 20th of August?
That should be fine, Esther. Thank you.
Okay. On the 20th of August, it will be a conference call, 7 p.m. And I'll get that paperwork to you, Denise.
Thank you. I'll be sending out my normal call tomorrow. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Esther. Resident Curator, Bob.
Okay, I'm unmuted. There you go. All right. Sit up and stand up straight. All right, well, I can give a quick report. The curators, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, I'd rather. That looks good. The curators' upcoming projects at the Hannah P. Clark and Yeti Howe properties include updating fixtures, preparing walls for paint and repairs to the Yeti studio. The final meeting of the Lost Lady Valley evaluation team will be held virtually via Zoom on September 2nd at 10 a.m. This meeting will be used to score the applicant and determine the selection outcome. The meeting will be available for public viewing via a forthcoming link. Public comment on the application will be collected in writing through Wednesday, August 26th via park mail at fairfaxcounty.gov. And for more information on the application under review, visit the Resident Curator Program website. Process for service sources submission of the special exception application for Elmore Farmhouse is in advance of the FCPA lease is under review with the county, with county zoning. The curator's upcoming projects for the Turner farmhouse include repairing and refinishing hardwood floors in the farmhouse. The RCP annual inspection at the Stimson house will be held on July 22nd, which means it's already happened. Upcoming projects include master bedroom renovation, interior, exterior improvements to siding and the deck once weather gets cooler. And last item, staff is working on park operations to install electricity at the Baird House later this summer. The specialized septic system installation will occur later this month. That is the report. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Bob. It's always so exciting to hear about the resident curator program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still cooking along, even though we've got COVID-19. So we're held up because the Hannah P. Clark House. Lost Leahy Valley. We're way behind on awarding that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So maybe about 4 months, 5 months behind. But we're moving forward anyway. We figured out how to do it. So that's kind of exciting, and that means the other ones will be coming up.
Good.
Anyway.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a successful program.
It really is something to be proud of. Elise would have given us a budget report and a suggested budget tonight, but she's not here, so we'll expect that. Golly, September. Ann Barnes will be interested to hear the recommended change to the bylaws. Lynn at the conference and awards. Oh, is she back?
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, good. Hi.
Back from the kitchen. Okay, exciting stuff here, guys. Exciting news. Not fully baked yet, but we are certainly getting there. We had a meeting last Thursday evening, and let's see, present were Jordan, Mary, Mike, Esther, Cheryl Ann, Liz, and David Meyer. And we had a very lively conversation and have decided to do a virtual conference. Our proposed dates are November 14th and 15th. It will involve 2 sessions on the 14th, an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the afternoon, and Sunday afternoon, the 15th, an hour and a half again, morning. And this is all draft, this is all proposed, but in terms of the dates and the venue tonight, I will be needing to have a motion to go ahead and make at least a commitment to this, to the dates and the times and the venue. So on the 14th, 10 to 11:30 in the morning, afternoon session 1:30 to 3, Sunday afternoon 1:30 to 3 also. Tentative topics, we're still kind of in the draft stage of this, would be for session 1, kickoff and historical review, including Virginia's suffrage movement. A number of folks were brainstormed in terms of identification, who they might be. We would include folks such as Paul Gilbert, Alice Reagan, perhaps a couple of authors who have written on the topic as well. The afternoon will be, I think, a very, very appropriate theme of the African American presence in the suffrage movement. And we'll be tapping the Delta Sigma Theta sorority to be helping present that, of which our Esther McCullough is a member. And then also a lovely woman named Cipriana McCrae, who is the president of the Reston Dulles National Council of Negro Women and the 2020 recipient of the Valiant Women of the Boat Award. And she will be presenting on a number of different African-American suffragists like Mary Church Terrell and Ida, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Ida,
I had all this down.
To be well.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wanted. She's also got a Barnett in there in some publications because she used her married name sometimes. But anyway, so she's got about 3 African American ladies she wanted to speak on. Session 3 would be some of the other influences that made the suffragist reality a success: the Quakers, the British suffragettes, the Temperance League. And then also, of course, we would be wrapping up with a point to the Turning Point Suffragist Memorial in Occoquan. And many months ago, I'd been in touch with Pat and Edie and Bob. Obviously, you would be a part of this too. Possibly a chance somewhere along the line to meet Mrs. Robert Walker in some way or another. Now, we've got a number of questions that have been turned into Denise for the county attorney, including legal requirements to provide a virtual program to the public, copyright issues in terms of quotes and pictures. Cheryl Ann did a wonderful piece of research on that I then have forwarded out to the committee too, whether or not we need speaker disclaimer forms and any of the questions that the county attorney feels like we should address. Logistical questions include managing sort of the participant locations, and there'll be a segue to that in terms of the actual filming of this in just a minute. How would we create cohesive backgrounds, managing PowerPoints, the viewer and speaker agenda issues. We'll need an electronic flyer, not unlike what we've done in recent years past. Registration, how might we handle that? We've got quite a bit here to talk about. What some of the segues would be: music during breaks, countdown numerals during breaks. Is there a limit on number of participants? Who will we work with? Again, might it be Nicole or others? She worked with us in our first meeting. How to embed videos. Kenina Spalding from the Suffragist Museum down in Morton has a couple of good videos we might want to include. And also, and this will be my segue to the next committee report here, how might we manage award presentations? So does not have to be part of the conference this year. This will be also a recommendation from the awards committee a little later on, but that is an area that needs to be fully addressed. Now, I heard earlier today that there is a grand possibility. Please hear draft and possibility as I presented all of this. That Channel 16's Pam Gardner, who has worked with us on many conferences before in the past, is going to be checking with her supervisors, and I'd already kind of done a check-in with Patrick Balsamo about doing the conference live from the studios at Channel 16 at the Government Center. So stay tuned. Our champion is Pam Gardner. We do not know for sure if that's going to happen. She does need to get with her supervisors. So that's pretty much a quick summary. Anyone that was in the meeting last week want to add that anything that I might have left out or you think is important for the commission to consider? Any other thoughts?
I have a question.
Sure.
The Turning Point Memorial, is that the groundbreaking is the same day that November 14th?
No. The groundbreaking happened a long time ago. So
okay.
The 14th, no. Unless
November of 19.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was last year.
Yeah, November 14th is the Night of Terror that happened at the Alcorn Workhouse. So that's why that date kind of seemed to resonate for us.
Yeah.
It is the date that we were going to use Laurel Hill Country Club too. So, and we're not obviously going to do that now. So that's a little bit more information on that. Bob, did you want to weigh in on that a little bit more?
On which?
And anything having to do with Turning Point?
Yeah, is there any connection
Sure.
we can make?
Oh, definitely, definitely, yes. Oh my heavens, yes.
Yeah.
We'll probably even kick off with a reference to that and flyers and helping the audience.
You can do a video tour of it as part of your.
Yeah. And
well,
I'm sure
it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting subject. You know, all along our date for having a ribbon cutting ceremony was to be August 26th of
right.
this year. And of course, many months back, it was decided not to spend any money on doing that because we weren't guaranteed that we'd be able to assemble in any kind of a group, much less having the people that wanted to come from all national areas.
Right.
So COVID-19 has affected our performance to some degree. It's slowed us down a little bit. For example, the Utah sculptor that is making the 3 statues, the foundry was closed for about 4 weeks, so he's behind. He was going to be able to mount the statues in this month, but that's been probably moved till end of September or maybe until October, depending on the foundry conditions. So, you know, we're a little bit hurting there too. And some of the production on the 19 stations has been held up slightly for similar reasons. And we're a number of weeks behind due to some of the weather conditions we've had. So we're not quite as far along on construction as we would be. And we won't be able to plant any of the plantings until the fall. And we will start with about 21 trees, what would be considered large trees, although when they're planted, they're not large trees. They just grow to be large trees. They're the ones that create the shade we need for the flowers. So, you know, we still have an irrigation system to put in, and we're short a little bit of money. Suffices to say that the state was going to provide us some and the county a little bit more, and those votes have been postponed due to COVID-19. And I will tell you that the Women's Centennial Suffrage Commission, federal commission, created specifically for the centennial and its celebrations, decided to fund the installation portion of the White House fence that we'll be getting. So that is under works as well. So this is actually 3 sections of fence where the women really picketed in 1917 for the right to vote. This is the actual fence they stood behind, the one you see in so many of the famous photographs. So there'll be a special area within the memorial for you to view this, and to the left of that would be a wayside type marker that would have a photograph of the women picketing, and the National Park Service and the liaisons to the White House are the ones writing the text for the marker, and of course they're paying for the marker as well. So anyway, it's turning out to be even more exciting than we anticipated, but you know, nothing happens overnight. So we probably will be more in line with being finished, close to finished. Whether or not we could have anybody on the property or we get a final permit and we're closed out and we're allowed to do that's questionable by November. And in regards to how to celebrate on the 26th, I think that I don't know all of the ins and outs of this, but I'll cue you up a little bit, no pun intended. In fact that we can't have any live participation, there has been days worth of interviews with multiple numbers of people on the subject, and they're going to string it all together somehow and create a virtual ribbon cutting, which they do plan to do, I think, on the 26th of August. So there are some plans. I don't know all of those details because I'm all wrapped up in the building portion of it, and it's taking up my focus right now rather intensely. So anyway, those are some of the things. I'm sure I haven't covered everything, but those are the highlights certainly about where we stand, what we're doing, where we're going, how we're getting there. So now you have knowledge.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to know about that, and I'll try to promote the webinar thing, whatever that will be on the 26th, that we're all paying attention to that. That's great.
This is Esther.
Yeah, if they really do get it done by the 26th. I don't know what the dates will be.
Go ahead, Esther. Esther.
Lynn, have you gotten some answers from Denise?
Oh, in terms of the questions for the county attorney? No.
No,
not anything other than the possibility of working with Channel 16. That just happened today.
Okay, so do we need a motion to pursue this?
Yeah, we do. I think the motion needs to be, let me see if I can sketch this out here. Denise coached me if I'm not as complete as I might be. We need a motion for the History Commission to, and by the way, the filming of this, even if we just do it webinar, should not cost anything, which is brand new reality for this committee. We are asking the commission to support the 16th annual history conference, which will be devoted to the suffragists receiving the right to vote through the 19th Amendment. Our conference would be on the 14th and 15th of November. It would include a hour-and-a-half session in the morning on the 14th, hour-and-a-half in the afternoon on the 14th, hour-and-a-half in the afternoon on the 15th, virtually. Those are the dates and the times. And I've kind of sketched out the themes for you, but I think maybe we won't put all that in a motion right now. The group has only met once, and we do plan to meet again on Thursday, the 13th of August from 7:30 to 9. So that's an alert to Denise. So
did you make that motion?
So the motion is that it's kind of a long one. I'm sorry, Gwen, wherever you are, that the commission support the reality of a virtual history conference on the 14th and 15th of November, which would include virtual sessions, 2 on Saturday the 14th and 1 on Sunday the 15th, 2020.
The second motion.
All right. Any other discussion? Very exciting ideas. I guess all in favor, say aye.
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 Wonderful. Wonderful.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, you got that, Lynn.
Oh, that's fantastic. That look.
I'm sorry to say it's 10 o'clock, so we're all turning into pumpkins quite soon.
Oh, I know. I'll make the next one pretty quick. You can see how well the suntan is working out here for me. Okay, so the awards committee was given an email today that sort of summarized where we are to date. And we are, something for a little bit later on. We have 3 submissions. You may remember we extended the date until the 1st of August, so we have now passed that date. And what we are looking at, I can do this off the top of my head. I just thought I'd read you what I sent to everybody, but we have 3 submissions. Actually 2 submissions from Greg Wilson, 2 Distinguished Service Awards, 1 to Heather Bollinger, and 1 also to Katrina Krimpaski for their good work in terms of supporting some of the projects that Greg has been involved in. So those 2 ladies. Then we also have an amazing award that was submitted really from Carol Herrick to recognize a man named John Ryan, a lady named Mary Ann Hampton, and also the board of directors, if you will, for the 50th anniversary of Schaus Village. This anniversary event happened in 2019. Apparently it was a smashing success. So the committee will be continuing to take a look at that. I've heard from 2 committee members already that both of those were accepted, and the third one that was accepted is the Mayo Stunts Prize, which is a short video that was done by Tody Carnes. And I sent that information out today. I don't know, committee, if you all were able to see it or not, but Tody just did a phenomenally beautiful job. It is the video that is used at Huntley, and gives a wonderful overview of the land and its historic landscape and its presence in that part of Alexandria in connection with Mount Vernon. So that is where our awards committee is. We need to take a look at that. We need to decide how we will be presenting those awards this year. So stay tuned on that. Okay, we don't really need, I don't think, a motion for that information. And awards committee, anything else you want to add in?
Yeah, Lynn, this is Greg. If I may, just a slight correction. the awards for Katrina and Heather are not just for helping me in my research, although they both were helpful. Katrina is, I give her a lot of credit for building up the Historic Records Center. And then Heather's been instrumental in the Found in the Archives monthly newsletter.
Right. That's right. You mentioned the newsletter, but yeah. So Greg was the one that had presented that. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. No, thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome. Steve, Jordan, either of you, any other thoughts here? Elise is not with us tonight.
No.
Okay,
for me.
thank you guys.
Steve.
Very comprehensive, Lynn. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, Mary on cemetery preservation.
I have nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you. Elise appreciates everything she's gotten on the annual report, but she still hasn't heard from everyone. So you'll have a small reprieve because she's not on this call to chastise us all. So get on the stick. She sent us copies, plus they're on the website and everything. So update your information, and committee chairs, send all your stuff. It's hard to even remember last year by now.
It is.
Carol, advocacy.
Advocacy did not meet. It's going to wait until this COVID thing settles down a little bit.
Good. Commission member reports. Elise is not here for ARB. They've got that meeting next week we heard about. Cheryl, anything new on website?
So nothing new, just an apology to Lynn for having missed the Jack Hiller Award. Sorry.
You know, Denise and I went back and forth on that today, and one of the things she pointed out was that our construct of the description of it doesn't quite match what's all on there. So we may need to go back and take a look at it. But I know the commission voted on it last year, and I know Mike Irwin was very excited about our finally being able to put that through. So just kind of stay tuned, Cheryl. You may hear from us kind of individually with a green light.
Okay, so now
Just a point of clarification, Lynn, I think it was you and Cheryl who had the exchange about the format. So
Okay. I'm sorry. I've had so many. I've also been in and out of the town of Clifton Racial Justice Committee meeting tonight, so I've been juggling a lot of different things here. So thank you for the correction. Thank you.
Okay, we're almost done. We have announcement. I encourage you, if it's not important, don't make it, or if it's important, keep it short. Wave your arms around if you have, or shout. I'm seeing Lynn. Go for it.
Quickly, I did a little news piece for Channel 7 with Pat Worth back on the 15th of July. It aired the next day on the 16th. Promoting the Turning Point Suffragist Memorial and its location. It was very nicely done with a gentleman named Tobias, who I hope maybe we can work with again in the future. So that happened. And the other piece is on the 20th of August in that afternoon, I will be part of a hour-long WebEx presentation for Loudoun County, talking about the celebration of the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote with the 19th Amendment.
Which county?
Loudoun County.
Okay, good, thank you. And anybody else, make lots of noise if you have another announcement. Otherwise, we are gonna adjourn. I'm looking at everyone's face. All right, shall we do it? Shall we adjourn?
Adjourn. Agreed.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Meeting. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.